Hello, my name is Don Raley. I'm a retired student financial aid director here at Dickinson College, and it was my pleasure to serve PASFA in several leadership roles, and I have the opportunity these days of going each year to what is now called the Don Raley Institute to address the newcomers to the profession. I'm always impressed to see 50 or more new financial aid administrators gathered for several days of training in these days of restricted institutional budgets. It's difficult for schools to do that, but they must know that it's important, and I continue to believe that it is. I like to urge those newcomers to develop institutional research programs. Try to get an historical perspective on your own institution's financial aid capabilities, and compare the funding of the state and federal programs from years back to the current funding. And when you see those gaps, which I think are increasing annually, there's a good opportunity to take that information to institutional leaders, presidents, board of directors, institutional officers whose responsibility it is to communicate with government people, but let them know how the federal programs are not keeping up, so that they may be active in their work to get increased funding of the programs. That, of course, helps more students from low-income families attend college, which is critically important. The story that I like to tell at the annual Don Raley Institute is one that I encourage the participants in the program to remember a bit and pass along to the people from their institutions who might be contacting government officers, because they might recognize some of the details of it. The gist of it is that student financial aid, whether that's federal or state or institutional, is of critical importance to societal development. And the development began with an eye-opening experience that this nation had at the close of the First World War, when thousands and thousands of people came out of military, and they're at the right age to be having families, and they have to work to put a roof over the household and feed the babies and put shoes on them. And the nation saw that they really, only a few from affluent families were able to actually go to college and develop professional credentials. And the outcome of that was that we had right away the Great Depression, followed by the Second World War, because that whole age group, all of those people from military, that whole swath came out and did not get into leadership roles in the society. They had to work at jobs that they could find locally and produce income enough to maintain the household. There was an enormous leadership void there, and the professions were not being fueled and enhanced by those veterans coming out of the First World War. So as the Second World War was winding down, the society realized that they couldn't have that terrible experience of the Great Depression and another world war again, that those people coming from military had to be encouraged to get to college, graduate school, professional school, and then into leadership roles in the society, which they did. And the original federal student financial aid program was called the GI Bill, and it was designed to encourage veterans to go to college and develop those credentials. Then, as that wave of veterans entered the world of work with their professional credentials, they brought about that enormous boom that this society experienced. That boom in which they came out as professionals, not as assembly line workers and laborers. They were leaders of the society, and they provided the leadership this nation needed for that boom. And of course, there were lots of boomers born at that time because those veterans are the right age to be having babies. And today, those boomers are turning 70 at the rate of 10,000 people a day. And can you imagine what's going to happen to Social Security and the Medicare and other programs designed for the aged? But the next student financial aid development happened during another war. It was the Cold War, when in 1956, the Russians shot off Sputnik. Fear was put in the hearts of all the Western worlds, and there was anxiety about being nuked by some Russian spaceship or satellite. Didn't really know what it was all about, but we knew we had to catch up to the Russians with our technologies. And it was documented that the root of the problem was a teacher shortage. So there was, in 1957, Dwight Eisenhower signed the National Defense Education Act, which included a raft of new student aid programs. The first one of which was out of the box and called the National Defense Student Loan Program. It was designed to entice people into the teaching profession. And it did that by telling prospective students that if they used National Defense Student Loan funds to pay college costs, and they did become certified to teach, and they did in fact go to teach, their aggregate debt would be forgiven at the rate of 20% per year of teaching. So you teach for 5 years, the whole loan is absolved and wiped off. And it worked again, because it wasn't long, it wasn't many years before the teacher shortage had become a teacher glut. There were more teachers than there were openings. So the Department of Education changed the National Defense Student Loan Program and eliminated the loan forgiveness feature. They kept the program, but changed its name to the National Direct Student Loan Program. And out in the trenches in the financial aid offices, we were kind of glad that they kept the initials the same, so that across the top of the forms we could do ND, Defense or Direct SL program. And it saved us a lot of time in those days prior to the ready-handy use of computers. So you can make the similar story for the BEOG, the Basic Educational Opportunity Grant Program. Later in its career, the name was changed to the Pell Grant Program, which continues to exist and help students from low-income families. It needs, the funding of it needs to be closely observed by the financial aid community, and our government officials need to be reminded of the needs to keep these programs fully funded and enhance them in any way as possible. So that's the sermon I usually deliver at the Don Raley Institute. So now all you folks don't have to go. You can just watch listen to the tape.